Good afternoon, Warhawk Nation, and welcome to our most recent edition of Athlete Access. My name is Tim Lutz. I'm an assistant athletic director here at the university, and I have the honor today of being joined by some of the elite from AUM athletics and its history. This is our Hall of Fame edition. We had intentions of starting this program with our class of 2019 as we all can attest, COVID has thrown a monkey wrench in many of our plans, and with that has also delayed the formal induction of the class of 2019. But unfortunately, we were unable to get everyone on, so we were very fortunate to find some additional Hall of Famers that were able to fit us into their schedule at the last minute. So again, I want to welcome you and thank you for joining us today. At this time, I would like to formally introduce our panel and allow them to share a little bit about what they're up to these days. So I guess Lee, we'll start with you, and we'll do ladies first, and then we'll let Cody and Tyon and Mr. Jack introduce themselves as well.
Okay, thanks, Tim. I'm happy to be on today. My name's Lee Swanson Carroll, and I'm the next to the oldest besides Jack on this panel. So I played at AUM from 1989 to 1993 and had a great time. And we're supposed to. And I'm married. Been married about 25 years. I have two boys. One is in college, and one is in high school. And I am a kindergarten PE teacher. So if you love kindergartners, and we live in Texas now. So that's about it.
Katie?
I'm Katie Barnett. I played basketball at AUM from 1996 to 2000, and then I was a grad assistant in 2001 with Coach Krotz and Coach Tanya Hunter during that year. After that, I got the head coaching job at St. James School in Montgomery, Alabama, where I start my 20th year this year, believe it or not.
Wow.
Of being the girls basketball coach there. I'm married. I've been married for 14 years. We have 3 children. Natalie is starting middle school at St. James, so that's going to be kind of, a shell shock. I teach middle school PE there too, so I get to embarrass her at least one class period a day. And then I have Elliot. She is in 4th grade, and my youngest son, Joey, will be going into 1st grade at St. James. So, and that's about it. I appreciate you having me here today.
Awesome. We appreciate you joining us.
Go ahead, Mr.
I'll
Jack.
let you guys fight over the microphone now.
Age before beauty, Mr. Jack.
Want me to go next?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay, I'm kind of the oddball in the crowd. As you all know, when Steve Krotz took over and really developed the athletic program, I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute, but he established the Hall of Fame. And unbeknownst to me, he called me in 2012 and said, "You've been elected into the Hall of Fame." And I said, I couldn't believe that. Why would I receive any recognition like that? So let me take you back a little bit. I'm like you all. I was an athlete at Maryland, played 2 sports, basketball and baseball. Spent an Air Force career, retired in Montgomery. I was teaching basic mariners school out at Maxwell, teaching guys that didn't know how to manage things, how to manage a whole base. That's what I got involved with. Retired from that here. And during that time, someone called me. I was at a Rotary meeting one day and says, "Jack, you know about AUM?" I said, "Well, I've been out a couple of times watching some games." And that was the early time we had limited sports. So I mainly saw the men's basketball at that point. And I got a little interested. So one day I get a phone call from Chapman and Cy. Says, "Jack, we'd like to invite you out for lunch." I said, "Okay, I get a little bit more involved with the sports program, and my background. I was very interested. So I went out. As a result of that meeting, they talked me into becoming president of Senators Club, and that got me involved 4 years as the president. And during that 4 years, I was hired at AUM to raise money for the university. So I became assistant director for development. That's what they called it in those days. And I had some success with that, working with a great leader, Nancy Woodman, and she is not in good health right now. But she was one of the most gracious, great women to work with. And I really enjoyed myself doing that. But at the same time, Chancellor Williams at the time was a sports-minded guy, and he's a guy that started baseball and women's basketball in '87. And so we would go to Rotary meetings on Monday, and I'd talk to him about the importance of having a full-time athletic director. So that goes way back, because you got to remember, as a program grows, you need a full-time AD, and we didn't have one. We had part-time. That's hard to do that. So that's a little background for you. And when I retired, I met QV Lowe when he was hired in '87, and being a former baseball player, I really took to that, and we were like brothers. I followed his program from '87 to his retirement, and I'll get a little bit more into that in a second. But from that, Gwen Nance was later hired, and I knew her as the dean, you want to call it, of academic affairs when I was working in development. And so, gracious lady, very brilliant. She was an English major out of Texas, rode horses. Got to know her real well. But I thought, the program needs to grow, and the only way it can grow, the chancellor has to do something. So I arranged a meeting with her one day and talked her into having a full-time AD. I was on the selection committee. We ended up with Steve Krautz eventually. I'll skip some of this part. And Steve took over and did a tremendous job. You talk about took somebody with a small office in development to basically where it is today. I'm losing my voice. Excuse me. But from that, a lot of things started happening. Excuse me, I got to take a drink. Or I'll come back. Just go to the next person.
All right, Ty, go ahead and tell everybody what you're up to these days.
Hey, my name is Tyan. Thanks for having me. So for those of you who don't know, I played in the soccer program from 2010 to 2014. Since then, I put up a little bit of weight, clearly. And I've been living in Norway actually now. I'm from Brazil, but I met Ida in my time at AUM. And I ended up moving to Norway, where in the end of 2018, I graduated on my master's degree in leadership and organizational psychology. Last year was just a search for a full-time job. I got a 5-month project in a company called Scatec Solar in the communications department. But then I went back to a souvenir store. That's where I worked during the master's to try to pay the bills in Norway. That's a tough mission. And but then with Corona, things took a different turn. So now I'm trying to find another job or wait for the store to reopen. So, if you're hiring an assistant coach for the soccer program there, we can talk after,
I love it.
Thanks for having me. It's an honor.
We appreciate it as well. All right, and we'll round out the panel. Cody?
Yeah, how you doing, guys? I'm Cody Shields. I was there. I was only there for 2 years. I went to junior college in Dothan, Alabama. I played baseball. I was there from 2007 to 2009. That's when QB was the coach, and Marty was the coach, and Junior Kelly was there as well in that time. So they were my coaches. I owe them a lot. But glad to be on here today. Just a little bit about myself. I'm from Panama City, Florida. I moved back to Panama City, Florida after I didn't graduate from AUM. I specialed in nightlife back then, but I ended up getting my my degree here in Panama City, and I got into real estate. And then in 2018 in August, started a real estate company with my best friend. think real estate. And now we are just getting close to 2 years, and we're close to 35 agents and opening up a second location. So we've experienced a little bit of growth, a lot of it having to do with Hurricane Michael that came through. It was very, very devastating for our area, but also starting a real estate company right before actually ended up, it was not a bad time to start it. So that's what I do. I'm here at the office a lot, and I still try to play basketball, baseball, softball, as much as I can. And I am married. I've been married for 4 years. No kids, got 4 cats.
Well, terrific. As a reminder to all of our viewers who are watching, please feel free to leave a comment or leave a question. We'll get to those as we go through this next hour with our Hall of Fame panelists. So our panelists know we got some watchers already. Cody, I know you play with Charlie Lester. He had something on there that says "My People." Daniel Freary, sorry if I mispronounced that. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right or not. And then also DJ from the soccer program is watching as well. So actually, the first question that we got in the chat is for you, Katie. It's from a gentleman that we both know, Brian Pittman. He wants to know what your favorite memory from playing at AUM was. So we'll put you right on the spot.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, there's so many good ones. I just think my favorite part of AUM was from the time I stepped on campus, I just felt like it was family. I came in and it was Steve Krotz's first year there. I actually did not get recruited to AUM, even though I was like a lifelong camper, like I went to camp like every summer there. But I actually went to a tryout, and that's how I got my scholarship at AUM. But I just think from the time, when I was on campus as a freshman, there were 5 freshmen with us. And when I graduated and made it through my senior year, it was Freya Smith and I were the only 2 remaining freshmen from that group. And I think some of my favorite memories were just kind of, growing with her throughout the 4 years. We learned a lot from each other. We ended up being roommates, and I had really good teammates, and that was fun. Krista Williams, Javara McCall.
Yes.
Just playing with those girls. Tanya Hunter came on as a grad student assistant my junior year. And, that was a lot of fun. Making it to the national tournament every single year. That was a blast. I think the national tournament, was probably my favorite time. Those memories that, going from one game to the next and having to learn the scouting reports, and we get done with one team, we got to throw away that report, and Krotz gives us another 10-page report that we got to learn. And that was fun, just battling with my teammates, and we really had a good campus life at AUM. So I want to pinpoint it to one thing. I probably have some stories I could tell, but probably not on here. But it was just the camaraderie with my teammates, and I have some lifelong friends from that. I talk to Tanya Hunter almost every day, and Freya Smith, I just talked to her yesterday, and I keep up with Crystal and that type of thing. And that's just it's been life changing going to AUM. So I can't really pinpoint it to one thing.
Awesome. Well, as a reminder, please don't hesitate to leave a comment, leave a question if you'd like to be involved with the panel as well. We want this to be interactive, but as we're waiting for additional comments, we'll kind of bounce around a little bit and get to know our panelists a little bit better, and let them share some stories from AUM and how it's impacted their lives as they've moved forward. And Lee, I'd love to start with you if we can. You mentioned you have 2 sons, and your oldest, I believe, is playing college football in South Dakota. And I'm just kind of curious how your experience of being recruited and your experience of being a student athlete and an extremely successful student athlete, how that has translated into preparing him for college.
Well, college is so much different now than it was back in the day when I went to school. And so his recruiting process was a little bit different. I feel like, kids today, when they enter college, they pretty much got to know what they want to do. They've got to go ahead and declare that degree. And for me, back in the day, you didn't have to declare until your sophomore or junior year. So it was long. And so one of the things that we encouraged him to do, he knew he wanted to play college football. He wasn't a Division I player. He's a great Division II player. As a mom, I'll brag. I mean, he started his freshman year, led the team in tackles. He's a linebacker, and he was all conference his sophomore year as well. So that's my bragging moment for my kid. And Jack mentioned before we got started that my parents came to every one of my games. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia originally. And so I think we have missed out of 2 seasons in football, I think we've missed about 3 ball games. And so it's interesting to get to his conference. He's in the RMAC from Texas, because you got to get out of Texas, whether you're flying or driving. So, but his recruiting process was just different, because we encouraged him to pick a career and then look at the schools that had that career. And so he's a mining engineer major. We wouldn't allow him to be a coach or a teacher. We told him no, he couldn't do that. He could be a community coach and be involved in his church, but that's not the career he could choose. So he's a mining engineer, and that's kind of how that process went. And they recruited him in a lot of Texas schools and everything like that. That was just the one that he picked. So for my husband and I, my husband also played college basketball for both of us. And we actually were in college athletics for 17 or 18 years. We wanted him to pick a career first and then make the football second. So I don't know if that answers, but that's kind of how we did with him.
That's great insight. I've got a 14-year-old that plays baseball, and I think that he plans to major in baseball. So we've got to change that mindset a little bit and get him to where he's focusing a little bit more on the academic side of things. He goes to Lamp here in town. It's an academic magnet school, and very, very prestigious. But I tend to think that sometimes he does focus on baseball a little more than he does academics, even though that's something that as a college athletics administrator, I'd live with every day. You see the horror stories of the great athletes that don't take care of what they need to in the classroom or whatever it may be, and next thing you know, they're not able to play. So that's really awesome. I applaud you for that approach for sure. So Cody, I want to jump to you real quick. I've got I remember when I sent you a picture of the Ring of Honor and having your name in it. And I just thought that this story was really, really cool. And I wanted to bring this up and let you elaborate a little bit more on it. And I don't know if you remember or not, but you told me that you and Alan Ponder, when you guys were playing together, would spend a ton of time in the gym, whether it be watching basketball practice or picking Coach Chapman's brain or whatever it was. And you guys made the pact to each other. That's where you wanted to end up after your college career ended, and you guys wanted to be in that Ring of Honor. Just talk a little bit about what that emotion that you felt when you got that picture, and then also were notified that you were in the hall.
Yeah, so just to give you a little bit of background, like when I was there, like you said, there was a guy named Alan Ponder that played, and we both would have rather been college basketball players. Baseball just paved the way for our school, but we loved basketball. And we literally every day we'd go eat. If it was a Monday or Tuesday, I don't know where we would eat. Wednesday and Thursday, obviously, we ate at the BCM for $2. And so after we'd get done at the BCM or wherever we had eaten at, we would go down to the gym and we'd hang out with the basketball players and shoot around and dunk and all that. And then they would start practice, and Coach Chapman would get there and kiss us on the head like he always would. You know how Coach Chapman is. And but anyways, we would sit in there every day for a long time watching practice, and so we had many hours of seeing that. You see the same thing every day, and I just always thought it was cool. I was like, man, that would be really special to kind of put my stamp there. And but honestly, I didn't have an amazing junior year, and I didn't think that it was possible. And so it was kind of a fleeting thought. I happened to be blessed with a very successful senior season, and then after that, I knew that there would be a possibility that I could possibly be there one day. And of course, I moved back to Panama City, and you don't think about it very much. You think about it from time to time. And when I'd go visit up there, I would always look up there and I'd be like, man, I had a decent year that year. I've got a chance to be up there, and in the back of my mind, I didn't really tell anybody, but I always wanted to be up there. And then when I got the call that I was going to be in the hall, that was where my mind went. Was not the plaque, not anything like that. Because by the way, the picture that I have is absolutely terrible. So Tim, I would love to get a different picture for my plaque if possible, because I look like an absolute goon. We'll talk about that later, but my mind immediately went to the Ring of Honor, and that it would be up there. So when you sent that, man, it sent chills through my body, and it was really, really cool. And so I'm up there with a lot of really great athletes and great people. So it's honoring, man. Like, it's really cool.
Well, you talked about that senior year. You hit 461. That's still a school record. You had 7 homers, 9 triples, 13 doubles, 43 RBIs, 107 hits. Man, that's a monster year. And as a guy that plays fantasy baseball, your first round pick in my mind when it comes to moving forward as when you're building a team. So congratulations on that, and thanks for sharing that story. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Got a couple quick comments in here. Jacob Horton, who is our sports information director, wanted to know if having Junior Kelly on the staff as coach made surpassing his single season batting average record any more special.
Well, the thing is I didn't surpass it. We tied. So, interesting story.
Sure enough.
Junior and I had a love-hate relationship, and the reason why is because I was. I was constantly late. I was the funny guy on the team, so I got away with a lot. And Junior and QV loved me, so whatever QV says goes. And Junior would be really tough on me because I deserved it. I would show up late with a sausage biscuit 2 minutes before inter squad on a Friday or whatever. It was ridiculous. I ended up becoming a coach and would get on to people like me. But anyways, we actually grew to create a decent coach friendship over that year. And, he really took a liking to me. And then after I started having a really good year, he invested a little bit extra time into me. And it really meant a lot to me. And we never talked about the batting average record. And because here's the deal, if you ask me what I hit, I know I hit 461. If Junior was on this chat, he wouldn't know what he hit. He's not like that. But I ended up actually, I'm kind of embarrassed to say this, but I did not beat him. It was like I was at like 460, and the books were wrong in the national tournament, and they had to go back and fix it. And I was worried because I was like, oh man, that would be a terrible way to take the record. And it ended up, we tied right at 461. And honestly, I would not want to have beat him. I think it's really cool to have it with him. What are the odds that we both hit the exact same? So it's an honor, and it really helped because he taught me a lot about hitting, man. Junior's approach was very different than most people, and it was an honor.
Mr. Jack, you alluded to it a little bit, how you got involved with AUM. I'm curious what you mentioned back in 2012 when you got the call from Steve about being inducted in the Hall of Fame. You are our only meritorious service inductee in the Hall of Fame to date. And I was just curious how surprised you were when you got that call from Steve.
Well, first of all, I knew he had formed the Hall of Fame. I never thought that an outsider like me would even be considered. I had no thought at all. I supported AUF athletics. All these athletes we have in the chat and all the former people I'm well aware of, and I'm very proud of them. Especially Katie didn't bring up the point that she took the team to final game. They ended up being second. And Katie was a true leader. As an athlete and support, I was proud as could be. And my affiliation, of course, grew a lot, not only overall, but through QV because of what I'd said earlier. I'd met him when he was, announced as a new baseball coach, and he let me, after I retired, to travel with them and help. I would stand at first base over the years, 30 some years, and next to parents or the dad, and one of the dads would say, Jack, which son is yours out there? And I would say, all of them. And then that's the way it was through 500 plus players over the years. And QV, big heart, he let me say something to him if I could help. My approach to life itself, you got to be positive. Don't be negative. If you're trying to help somebody, be positive first and then tell them what they're doing wrong. If you jump all over them, they turn their mind off and you aren't going to get through. So it's got to be from a positive point of view. So QV allowed that. And I'll finish this up. When he retired, Steve Brown, Tyler Williams, and some other older players, we wanted to name the field after QV. And we did so in 15 February this year. We did that.
It was a special day, wasn't it?
And with my background in raising funds, I kind of helped the programs here and there over the year. Not only that program, but other ones also. So I guess collectively that's why in the meritorious category, that happened. But I wasn't looking for anything. It just happened. But I'm very glad to be a part of that Ring of Honor. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Tyon, we need to send a question your way because I know in Norway it's after 10 now, isn't it? 10:30?
Yes, 10:30, around 10:30.
We joked that it's past your bedtime, but I'm curious because all of our other panelists are domestic student athletes. What at an international, what drew you to AUM from Brazil?
I went to AUM through a company in Brazil, and at the time we had at AUM assistant coach from Brazil called Bruno. I don't know if you remember Bruno. And he was in contact with this company. They sent like video with highlights, and the scholarship sounded good, man. The scholarship sounded good. The program seemed successful. AUM had a few good runs in the early 2000s and good national tournament appearances in 2006 or 7. So that sounded exciting to me. And the team had a lot of internationals. So it was a place where you would not feel like alone kind of thing, So there was a whole group of internationals. There was other Brazilians going as well. So I ended up in Montgomery, Alabama. So everybody would ask me in the beginning, how come you came from Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, and you ended up in Montgomery, Alabama? Well, it's all about soccer. I almost said football. It's all about soccer.
Well, that's awesome. It's funny you mentioned the runs that the team had in the early 2000s. You guys had a great run your senior year, making it all the way to the national title game. And, unfortunately, that national title game, you and I were standing along the fence line together because you had injured your knee. But talk a little bit about that team. I know that had to be a special group to you for you guys to make that run to the national title.
It was amazing. That group was special. It was a very, very talented group of players. We have had, in my first year, we did not do so well in 2010. And from there, we just started building. 2011, we lost in the final of the conference, and we were like one win away of making the national. And I missed the penalty, by the way. That was my deepest bottom point at AUM. So that was challenging, but we came back the next year against Southern Poly as well. We won the conference tournament, made it to the Elite 8, if I'm not mistaken. We lost in the quarterfinals. And in the next year, we were considered one of the favorites to win. And we had a horrible start. we started 2-4, I think, and it seemed like it was gonna be that disastrous senior year for some of us. We were, I think, 7 or 8 senior players that year, and we managed to turn that around, and we had an incredible conference tournament run. We went 10-1 at the time. The SSAC was by far the toughest conference in the country for an AIA. And yeah, as you said, we went tournament. We won every game either on overtime or penalty kicks to make it to the final game. And we had the heartbreaking loss in the overtime in the national tournament. And like you said, I was beside you in the sideline with my crutches on. And we didn't deserve, it's like it was a great season. We had recovered so well from the start, and the team was so close together, and it still hurts, that still hurts. We should, I remember we had this, like Cody mentioned, the ring. I remember seeing that panel with the teams that won national tournaments at the gym. And I just thought, I want to see 2013 men's soccer national winners, national champions. We got close, but we brought the program back to the top again, and I think we have a lot to be proud of our days at A1.
That was certainly a special year for you as well. You were named the NAIA Player of the Year from the NSCAA, and first team All-American, both by, I believe, NAIA and NCAA or NSCAA. So obviously a lot that you accomplished that year individually, and the team had a great deal of success as well. As you mentioned, I think we called you guys the Cardiac Kids, I think is what the nickname was. So that was such a fun year. So Katie, let's talk a little bit about you. You mentioned your 3 children, and thanks to social media, we're able to keep up with each other that way as well. You stay incredibly active with your kids and their activities. Just talk a little bit about how sports has obviously it's impacted you a ton, but now it's also impacting your kids.
Yeah, definitely it is. Well, first I got to say, Jack, I wasn't part of the team
I thought
that
you
played
were.
for the national champ. I was a grad assistant. That was Krista
Okay.
Holmes and Carla Douglas and Dee Dee Johnson and all of those girls their senior year. I was a grad assistant that year.
You
Senior year,
coached them there.
No, that was Coach Kratz and Tanya that did that. But my senior year, we lost to Southern Nazarene in the Elite Eight. Leanne Besner, I believe, came off a screen and hit a 3-pointer to take the lead by 1, if I remember it correctly. But yeah, but it was a good run though. And it was fun to watch Crystal and Carla and those girls make their run for the national championship. Yeah, my kids, they're really active. I just think that sports, as we all can probably agree, that it just teaches so much about character building and adversity and working together. And my middle child, Elliot, she's a gymnast. And that's kind of different for me because I don't know anything about it. So that makes it a lot more fun for me to even watch because mama can't put her input in on anything. So, Natalie, she's a big basketball player. So she's constantly hearing, the coach's voice. And it's kind of interesting to watch Elliot in gymnastics. She plays basketball too, and she plays softball. It was kind of funny. Brian Pittman, we actually coached together on the little Montgomery American All-Star team. And I don't know anything about softball, so I don't know how I landed that, but it was a fun little run. They won the World Series and stuff. So that was fun. But Elliot, watched her in gymnastics and just the accountability that this little 9-year-old has to have of, being so focused and owning her mistakes. I think that's one of the things I love about athletics is from the gymnastics side of it, if she falls off the beam, it's not because it moved. It's not because a ref made a bad call. It's because a lack of focus, a lack of preparation, or, she just missed, she missed her footing and stuff like that. So I just like that side of it. I love that my kids are involved. And also just socially, I think athletics builds such a good social background because you got to figure out how to work with people you like, and you have to figure out how to work with people you don't like too in order to reach that goal that you're trying to get to. So I'm blessed to have, we've tapped into a lot of good sources in Montgomery, and I'm blessed to have my kids involved in those areas in Montgomery. The Wilson Y has been a big instrumental in the basketball side of things, and Montgomery American with softball and United Gym Stars, and my kids play Barber Elite Soccer. So it's been fun watching them grow through it, even through all the hiccups. So COVID's kind of put a slow, it's kind of slowed the the speed of things down a little bit with going every weekend, but that's kind of been refreshing, actually, a little more family time. So
I couldn't agree with you more there. We've picked up travel ball with the boys, so it seems like every weekend now
right.
we're heading a different direction now, and my wife at times and I have to split up to get to different parks. So one of the joys of parenthood for sure is seeing those as you mentioned those thrills of victories and agonies of defeat. Through your children and seeing how they respond to those. So, Lee, I've got two questions for you. If we can hop over to you real quick. The first question is kind of just informal, off the cusp. But you mentioned that you are a kindergarten PE teacher. I have a first grader, and I know that she has no attention span. So how do you manage keeping kindergartners attentive for an entire period of physical education? And then the actual question that I have for you is more along the lines of the uniqueness of your induction into the Hall of Fame. We had 6 members in that initial Hall of Fame class, and only 2 of them were student athletes. You and Jesse Phillips, obviously both incredibly well deserving of that honor. But talk a little bit about being one of the first true student athletes inducted into the Hall of
Okay. Kindergartners is like herding cats. So it's interesting. You can't take yourself too seriously, and you may have a class that everything goes really well and they understand, and then the very next class it may not. So you just ditch it and go to something else. And you got to remember that kids on those lower grade levels, they love you. Like you can do nothing wrong. You can get onto them and say, hey, quit rolling on top of your friend. Like, we're not doing that. And they'll, Coke Carol, I'm so sorry. And then they're happy and they love you. So it's just the way it is. You just gotta love kids. So that's that. It's fun. It'll be we're in Texas and we're supposed to start back school. So it's gonna be very interesting with kindergartners if they have to wear masks and all of that. It's gonna be very interesting. I can see it now. Anyway, it'll be fun. But as far as being inducted, of course, I wasn't like Cody. There wasn't a Hall of Fame when I was playing ball, and I had a great career. I was with Colby Tilley. He was our first women's basketball coach. He was a great coach, great guy, great friend. I had great teammates, like all of us did, and I loved it. I wouldn't have been able to get the accolades or anything that I got without my teammates. And so they were great. They were incredible. And we had a great time with each other. But as far as the first Hall of Fame, I had just had my second child was way premature. And so when I got the call, I think it was Steve that called me. And I was actually in a hospital because he was in the hospital. He's fine, but he was in the, he's 15 now. He was in the hospital for 3 months. He was a 26-weeker. And so I was in the hospital. So the last thing, I mean, when Steve's calling me, I'm like, what, who, where, I'm not with it. And I just said, well, I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I don't know if my kid will be out of the hospital. And I thanked him, but it didn't dawn on me what it was. And so anyway, my kid got out of the hospital and I was able to go, and it was a great honor. And I feel like that all my teammates should be in it. Like, I don't feel like it should just be me. I think it should be all of us. But it is a great honor and a privilege to be a part of it. And I've only been back to one. I've only been able to go back to one. One of my other teammates, Karen Duncan, was in it, and so I was able to go to that one. I missed Colby's induction, my coach, but I hope one day to get back because I think it's a great thing that y'all do, and I'm blessed to be a part of it.
That's awesome. I know that, you know, just having talked with you a little bit, I can tell that you're very humble, but let me brag on you for a moment if I can. 420 more career points than the second closest former lady senator, Lady Warhawk. 2,336 career points during your career here at AUM. So certainly something to be incredibly proud of. And as I mentioned, very deserving of being in that inaugural class. So.
Can I say this, Tim? But some of my teammates are still like, I don't know their exact numbers, but they're up there with assists. And so somebody had to give me the ball. So they were, Coach Tilley told me not to worry about playing defense. Just go shoot. So
okay. Katie, you look like you're laughing because I don't think you ever heard that come out of Steve's mouth.
Oh no, it was like,
Defense.
Gracious, yes. I mean, and then on offense, it was run that shot clock down to where the whole bench had to count it off before we got a shot. So it was definitely a different. I remember, when I was in high school, I used to watch a lot of AUM women's basketball. LaKenya Knight, Cairo was playing then. Lee, I don't know, did you play with Pam Holloway?
I did.
Yeah.
I played with Pam, and then I coached. I did a grad assistant with both Cairo and Pam.
Yeah, and so I can just remember, the speed. Like Kobe Tilley, he was up and down. Y'all were really up and down the court, and we were more. Our style was more really defensively focused, and running the shot clock down, getting the best shot, that type of thing. It was two completely kind of different styles. But yeah. It was fun. I can remember in high school going to the camps and, like I met, Pam Holloway and, Cairo. It was interesting when I went to the open tryout at AUM, they were scrimmaging against us. And, Freya Smith, my college roommate, was actually there too. But so it was kind of like, oh, wow, we're going to have to play against these ladies. So, and then it's kind of interesting because, Cairo, she coaches right in town, but Pam, her and I had to coach against each other this past year. So maybe 2 years ago. So, she's at Dadeville. So it's kind of interesting. You always see, the basketball AUM alum around coaching and that type of thing.
That's fun. That's awesome.
That's that. I feel like these stories are totally why we enjoy doing these athlete access so much. Just kind of rehashing through different eras of the athletic department and different stories. And it's funny, Cody. I've got a message here in the chat from Booty. It says he would like to know if he got ejected from the Trevecca Nazarene game. It was snowing because he hated the cold and wanted to get on the bus. Cody, I think.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I had to unmute it. Yeah, so I've only been thrown out. Did he say he got thrown out or I got thrown out?
It says, being Cody's teammate, I would like to know if he got ejected from the Trevecca Nazarene game.
Yes, I did get ejected from that game. I got to be careful what I say. It was 19 degrees at Trevecca. It was one of our first games of the year, and I don't do well in the cold. Come to find out, I found out that I have something called Raynaud syndrome, which is like I get poor circulation to my hands and my feet. So it's really hard for me to try to hit a baseball or throw a baseball in the cold. So it was miserable. So anyways, it's blowing out there, and I got burnt on like probably my second or third, ball in the gap. And I got to the ball and I threw a hose to Shane at shortstop, and then he threw it to third, and the guy slid head first. And I mean, from my angle, 300 feet away, he looked out, and I was convinced of it. and he called him safe. And basically what it was I was so cold out there, I was just mad that I couldn't get back to the dugout. And I basically said, "You have to be stinking kidding me," but something a little bit different than that. And I don't know how he heard me, but the umpire, I mean, he was like this, and he turned right at me and he said, "You're out of here." And I was like, I was kind of blown away, like there's no way that he heard me. And then he's like, "Yeah, you're out." So I walked all the way from center field into the third base dugout, and I went and luckily I was benched the next game because you can't play the next game, so I got to put my big hunting jacket on, and I didn't have to play. I obviously would have wanted to play, but they always said that I got threw out on purpose so that I didn't have to play in the cold. I think most of the guys playing were jealous that I got to put on the big poofy hunting jacket. But it was pretty cool because as I'm walking in, QV, he walks out there, and, you know, QV, "Oh, what's going on? What do you say?" "Oh, he didn't say that, Mom." And I got in, and he's like, "Cody, they said that you said this." And I said, "Coach, I did. I effed him. I said it." He goes, "Oh my gosh, son." So anyways, I don't condone the language I used that day. But I did get thrown out. It's the only game I've ever been thrown out of, other than some church league basketball games.
That's even worse, Cody. Come on, man. I'm just kidding.
Hey, these days I don't argue calls. I congratulate them. I bring them water. But when I was younger, I was a little feistier, and I didn't like to lose as much back then.
Time we got a comment from one of your former teammates. Vitor Silva said he believes that you would do that because Brazilians hate the cold.
Yeah, I remember a game we had in the first year. I actually did not play, and I was upset I didn't play, but I can't complain. But it was a very, let's say, hostile environment against Lindsey Wilson, and it was pouring down. It was so much rain, and we were just sitting on the bench. I was like, I don't know what's worse, if it is to be out there or just like sitting here under this rain. But I don't think we ever got that cold weather, as Cody is mentioning. So yeah, we were safe out there. I had an ice cold experience here in Norway, and that was challenging.
Well, hey, I've got a question that was submitted in the chat that I'd like to post to all of you. It just says, "What are some things that you took away from your time at AUM that you are using in your career today?" I think that we can all be in agreement that there are some great things that AUM has taught us, and some great experiences that we've had together. And but what are some things that you guys specifically remember from your time at AUM that has been impactful in your careers, and coaching careers, or teaching careers, or real estate careers, or whatever it may be?
I've got one. Well, I've got two. Coach Tilley was a big, you had to walk on sidewalks. You couldn't not walk on sidewalks. So respect it. And if we got caught, we had to run. And then the other one was you had to be 15 minutes early to practice, to pre-practice. And so, or you were considered late, because this thing always was that if you had a tire, like, and it went flat or whatever, well, if you were already 15 minutes early to your pre-practice, then you wouldn't be late to practice. So I think our practices every day were, pre-practice was at 1 o'clock, practice was at 1:15. We had to be there at 12:45. So I'm always on time for stuff. My husband is not. It drives me crazy, but I'm always on time.
I'll go next.
Yeah. Go ahead, Katie. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, good. I would say just planning and preparation. That's what I took from it. I mean, Steve Cross is kind of the master of that. We were held accountable for everything. I mean, we had study halls twice a week. We had every day, we had a sign-in sheet where we had to go up to his office, and if we did not sign our name on that sign-in sheet before 12, I was a little worried about what would happen at practice that day, where he'd just have announcements, whatever he had to tell us for the day. So there was never an excuse of not knowing. Um, Scouting reports, that's one of the things I remember the most. I mean, I think I knew more about North Georgia than North Georgia knew about themselves. I can still tell you every point guard's name I played against, what plays they ran. I mean, so practice plans, I mean, had have that posted on the board. We knew what was happening, when it was happening, and the expectation. So just kind of that planning and preparation. Um, Going in as a coach, coaching, I kind of feel even down to my peewees that I coach in second through sixth grade, I feel like I've got to have a plan. I have to go in. I have to have something written on paper when I go into that practice. I don't feel good if I go in and wing it. So definitely just the planning and the preparation for the task at hand, for the upcoming game, the upcoming practice, whatever it may be. That's really rolled over with me into my coaching career.
I'll go next. So for me, obviously I took a lot of things, but I own a real estate company, and part of my job is recruiting new agents, and I've got to bring people on and everything. And when Zach and I, my business partner, started Think Real Estate, one of our big things was we wanted to create an unmatched culture. We wanted a culture. And basically, when I looked up what culture meant, one of my favorite authors puts it like this. He says, people like this, people like us, we do things like this. Like, this is the way we do it. And that's what attracted me to AUM. I was actually looking at Lee University and Barry and AUM, all rivals in the conference at that time. And Lee was a very, you got like a laptop and all this gear and stuff when you went there. Barry was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been on earth. And then there's AUM, and it's like, well, why would you choose AUM? It was the culture, man. From when I went there to watch the practice, when I talked to Alan Ponder, I remember being on the left field line, Ponder telling me and saying, hey man, listen, I played at, he played at the University of Alabama. He's like, I played at Alabama. I've been to, I've had all that, but this is where you want to be. This is the culture that you want to be a part of. And so I try to take that, the idea of the culture that we had there, not just in the baseball program, but the athletic program in general, because we used to hang out with the girls basketball players, the guys basketball players, girls soccer, guys soccer, we all hung out. So I try to take that culture and replicate it here in the office and throughout town. And so that's honestly one of the biggest things I took, because let's be honest, I don't think when we were all little, at least I wasn't, not growing up in Montgomery, I didn't have an AUM poster on my wall and say I wanted to go play at AUM, right? Like but when the D1 dreams were out and this, that, and the other, it's like, all right, where am I going to go? I don't know these other colleges, and what really drew me in was the culture. So I'm glad AUM's culture is what it is, and I would imagine it's still like that today.
I think I can go next. I think I can say a little bit about adaptability. I think, to me, coming from Brazil and getting a team that had players from United States, Iceland, Germany, at the time we have Australia, Nigeria, and France. And especially in soccer and football, sports in general, you have people with very different egos and backgrounds, and in this case, a lot of different countries. And you got to adapt to each style, kind of thing, not just the culture and the style of play, but some players you can be harsher on, others you need to be a little nicer, and try to understand that people are different and how you can adapt to treating people differently when it needs to be done. And I think this is not just from AUM, but from athletics in general, from playing football, soccer my whole life. I think this was it was a great experience at AUM, having so many different people in the same team and managing to get on the same page to succeed. I mean, we didn't win nationals, but we got pretty close to it. So I think getting a different group of people and such diverse group of people on the same page and towards the same objective, I think that was something that AUM time helped me a lot of understanding. It may have a lot to do with my master's as well in leadership and organizational psychology. I was really interested in this, how you can lead such a diverse group into a successful objective. So that was great for me and experience at AUM.
Mr. Jack, what keeps you coming back to AUM? I know you and Miss Barbara have retired and are down in Destin, but what keeps you coming back to AUM?
Because it's a great sports program and it's grown over the years, and I love the university and all of its players, faculty. You've had a great president. You've got a current great president right now, and your AD, and going and getting student athletic support fees, which are going to help the athletic program. All that collectively together shows a positive university. And that's why I keep following it. I love AUM.
Well, we certainly appreciate your continued support for sure. And panelists, I've got to be honest with you, I can't believe how quickly this time has flown by. It's coming up on the 4 o'clock hour and time the 11 o'clock hour for you. And but in closing, I had an idea that I originally thought we would do is just kind of some rapid fire questions. But the more that I was listening and the more that I was talking to you, I realized that you all played for some pretty impactful coaches at this university. And what I'd like is, before we conclude this session, I'd really like to maybe get your most Facebook, social media, Twitter, live appropriate story from your coach. What is a story that sticks with you, whether it be from Coach Tilley or Coach Krotz or Coach Koch or QV, that you guys can share with us that that you guys haven't forgotten.
I'll go first. I don't care. I'll go first. Okay, I'll tell a safe one. I would say I remember, there's certain games that kind of stick with you. There were a bunch my freshman year. God, I don't want to relive those. But I can remember we went to Claflin in South Carolina, took the bus trip up there. And we're playing Claflin. We were ranked like in the top 3 in the nation, something like that at the time. And we're up by, I don't know, we're up by, at halftime, we were up by 10 or so. And Claflin just second half and they just lay into us. They just take it to us the whole second half. We couldn't do anything right. Nothing right. And it's the end of the game and the score is tied and we come down the court and, I think, we had some play to get the ball probably to Crystal or Carla or something like that. And I probably almost turned the ball over 3 times coming down the court. And it's at the end of the clock's running down and I threw up a prayer right inside the 3-point line and it ends up going in. And I can remember it was a really adverse environment. Like we weren't getting any calls. Krotz had already, I think, thrown his jacket off. Tanya, I think, had tried to get him to sit down a couple of times. It was really an adverse environment. And we throw up that shot and it goes in and it's like a game winner. And, typically on game winners, we're going to like celebrate and go crazy. And I can remember it was like yesterday. I can remember me and Freya Smith and Jabara McCall and Tanya, when we all just turn and look at the ref. We had to get confirmation that he was going to count that shot. And he counted the shot and we all just turned and just walked straight to the locker room. I think we shook hands and then we walked straight to the locker room. There was nobody that celebrated. And we're in the locker room and there was some freshmen in there at the time and they were going crazy. Yeah, good shot, all that. And we're all looking and I just looked at him. I said, just sit down, just shut up. Don't say anything. And the whole locker room, we all just got quiet. And sure enough, 30 seconds comes in and Krotz comes in and, he laid into us. We won the game and it was a great win, but we should have never been in that position. That was kind of the interesting thing about it. It was never kind of good enough, and that's probably one of the big reasons why we were so successful is because it was always, okay, y'all did fine, but there's always the next step that was better. And I can just remember, like, you win that game on a last second shot, your team does, and it was like pure, like, we all knew, like. And I think on the way home, the bus trip home, I want to say, Kratz might not agree with this, but I'm pretty sure we stopped at a gas station and had like a $3 food limit on the way home from that Claflin trip. So, I mean, of course, that was kind of fun. I think funny to talk about. I think I said, to one of the other girls, I don't even want my $3. Y'all go for it, but it was just, that's kind of a fun story to remember. In the moment, it wasn't that fun, but, it was always like, there was always one step better that you could get, one step better. And that was one of those games the young girls didn't know. We don't celebrate that but sure enough, Kratz came in. He wasn't too happy about that game, but that's one of my game memories. And then one that I probably can't talk about, after the national tournament my junior year, I appreciated Kratz letting us have some team bonding as a team and, get away from the hotel a little bit as teammates. So that was kind of fun. But that's one I talk about. But that Claflin game still gives me nightmares every now and then. So.
Anybody else?
I have one that's funny, kind of like Katie's. Coach Tilley wouldn't feed us if we lost a game. He wouldn't feed us. I mean, we could have gotten on the bus at 1 o'clock, gone wherever, went to Playmobil or whoever, and if we lost, he would not feed us. He wouldn't stop at a gas station or anything. I mean, it was crazy. And the other thing was one of our home games, I think it was my sophomore year, we were good and we weren't playing well. And he didn't come out in the second half, nor the assistant coaches. So we had to coach ourselves and we ended up winning. And so, of course, we were so proud of ourselves, but then we wouldn't speak to him because, I mean, we're kids. We didn't know any better, but he was trying to prove a point that we were just like, well, we don't need you. Like, we just won the ball game. And so then we had to run. But anyway, it was hysterical though.
Well, I'll go next, and I'll try to keep it quick because I really feel bad just trying to limit it to one QB story. If you have any idea about QB, I honestly, Tim, we should have all the baseball players on one day and just talk about QB stories, and we could go for hours. But
I'm not sure what the limit is on Zoom time.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, seriously, like trying to limit it to one QB story is really tough. But I'll give you an idea of the kind of guy he is. He was still throwing BP when I was there, and all the way through until he was retired. And Coach had I think he'd already had one hip surgery, full hip replacement. And so he was, we had heard legend that every once in a while his hip would pop out of place. And he had evidently popped it out of place punting a football the year before. And so anyways, he's throwing BP, and all of a sudden we look, and QB rolls over. His hip had popped out of place when he was throwing BP. So he's on the ground going, oh, no. And so he obviously knew what to do. So he starts scooting on the ground like a dog trying to itch its behind, like trying to put it back in place. So he finally gets his hip back in place after about 30 seconds. So Marty and Junior at the time were like, all right, Q, come on, we'll throw BP. Oh, hell no, you ain't throwing BP. I'm going to finish this. And so he just keeps throwing. And it was that's just classic QB. And then he ended up getting hip surgery, I think a few weeks later. And, you're supposed to be, in bed for a week and you're not supposed to do anything. He had it on a Wednesday and he was at the Friday inter squad walking with his walker, no pain meds or anything. I mean, I'm telling you, this guy was special. But everybody knew he was like that. So that's why he got everybody to play so hard for him, because he knew that he'd go to war for you. So, yeah, that's one of my many QB stories.
Wow.
Yeah, I had a couple similar to Leif and Katie. Wolf was like me, as we were both very emotional in the loss, let's say. We did not take losses well. And we had a couple clashes and both being very angry after losses. But I remember one that was not just us, but it was, we went on a 20-hour trip to Iowa for preseason game. And we lost, we ended up losing both games, or it was a bad preseason day. And on the way back, we stopped at Subway, and a wolf just landed on us. It was like, and we had Nick Chamberlain was at the team at the time, and he had played a few years earlier before us, and he was talking about how different things were, that they didn't have as much as we had in equipment, and that things were getting so much better. They went. And it was, but it was a long trip back. We ate the Subway. We heard a lot. Nobody said a word for 13 hours. And the next day, everything was fine, ready to get back to work. And so it was always Mobile, going down to face Mobile. We had two or three bad losses against Mobile. And Wolf would go crazy to lose against Mobile. And so it was embarrassing. We had 2 times, and I loved playing against Mobile because I always enjoyed the hostile environment, because they said so much to us, like calling us names and saying stuff. And in 2 times we went there, we lost 6-2, 4 or whatever, and in 10 minutes kind of thing. It was 2 years the same. We got 3 or 4 goals in the last 10, 15 minutes. And it was similar, like stopped, got just like a sandwich. There was some drama on the way back that I would rather keep off the record. And the next day I had to go to his office. We had to talk, and some of the other players, but it was, I mean, he made us better. We improved so much in the 4 years we were there. And he had a huge desire to win always. And we shared that. So we were always in this clashing and being good again. So it was an honor to play for Wolf. It was some good times. I always admire his will to win. He really wanted to win a national tournament, and unfortunately we couldn't get it there together. But if people check the video of the conference in 2012 when we scored a goal, that's a great image of we ended up scoring a goal with 16 seconds left to win the conference in 2012. And there's Wolf jumping on the sideline, and he was like 2 meters tall. I still don't get the fit stuff, so I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to say 2 meter or 6 something. And he's jumping on the sidelines and celebrating, and everybody running on the field. So there was good times definitely.
Well, real quick, Mr. Jack, I'm going to let you close us out with a story that you have that you'd like to share about QV. But real quick, I do want to share a text message that I got from our athletic director, Jessie Rosa. She said, "Post-game meal at a gas station, that's classic crotch. She experienced herself, and she enjoyed a great bag of beef jerky on AUM's dime after a loss." So, Mr. Jack, any appropriate story that you'd like to share about QV or any of the other coaches that you've had the opportunity to work with before we close here?
A great experience with all of them. That's why AUM athletics is so good. I think AUM, compared across the country, has outstanding coaches. I attribute that to the leadership shown by your president, the AD, and all the way around. I think the key thing is having good people who can communicate their sport and so much carry the load for the players, help them through their academics, and teach them how to be good sportsmen on top of what they're learning in their sport. That's AUM personified.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Jack, and I think as panelists that you guys would all agree with that too. AUM is a special place, and we from the athletic department can't thank you enough for your time. Obviously, we went over the 4 o'clock hour, trying to keep this under an hour, but just so enjoyed having you guys on the panel and appreciate your time today. For our viewers, thank you for being active and for being inclusive and included in the conversation with us and involved. just as a reminder, this is just another of many athlete access that we hope to do. We'll do one next Wednesday, and we'll feature our softball team, student athletes, current and former student athletes from our softball team. And again, panel, thank you guys. You guys were wonderful. I enjoyed visiting with you, and you guys have all gone on and represented AUM in a phenomenal way. So thank you for that. And again, thank you. We can't thank you enough. So until next week, we appreciate you guys tuning in. And as always, go Warhawks. And we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Tim.